Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming to my podcast. And it's really good to have you. So I would just pass the mic on to you and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rachel. I'm in my first year at Auckland University. From the North Shore area, and I work as a youth intern for ANCAD, which is the Auckland North um, Community and Development. And I'm also on the youth advisory panel for Auckland Council at the moment. So my work is really youth focused. And for me, one of the most important things is definitely just capturing everyone's perspectives and values. I was born in China, but I lived in Vanuatu for a year and a half. And then I came to New Zealand. So coming from very different cultures, I really do value the different perspectives that people bring to the table. And I think, I want to continue to work in the youth area and to continue to capture people's stories.
Can I explore a little bit more about your life in Vanuatu?
I think Vanuatu, in my memory, is like the paradise, you know? I went to Vanuatu when I was like 7.5 because I did half a year of primary school in China. And I just remember there was so much homework in year one. And when I went to Vanuatu, it was like going to the ocean like every single day, horse riding, swimming, and life was just so beautiful. So Vanuatu was definitely like a really good memory for me. But I think in Vanuatu, I did learn a lot. I went to a French primary school in Vanuatu. So that's where my love for languages sparked in that area. I was also able to meet people from a lot of different cultures because there's obviously the indigenous Vanuatu people, but there's a lot of French immigrants as well as people from Australia, New Zealand. So my friends were from like everywhere. It was really cool. And I think Vanuatu was definitely like a really good experience in my life. And I am really grateful to have that when I was young. And I think it really showed me how to connect with people because, you know, when you're little, you don't really mind about what people think. You just kind of make friends anyway. And I feel like moving a lot, it really helps me to be able to connect to people quite easily when I meet them. And I think that's something really important, especially working with youth and working with people in general.
So when you were in Vanuatu, how long you stayed there?
I stayed there for a year and a half. So not super long, but a little bit. But I enjoyed the experience so much. It's definitely a good
But
place.
it's important because you are at the age of developmental stages. So that's kind of, what is the word? Have lasting impact on you as an individual, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
And so where were you after that, after
I
Vanuatu?
came to New Zealand after Vanuatu around 9 years old. And then I pretty much stayed in New Zealand after that. Had a few visits back to China, but I actually haven't been back to Vanuatu since coming to New Zealand. So it's been like a while now. I'm hoping to maybe go back sometimes, you know, next year or the year after, since uni is a bit busy at the moment. So I'll go once uni is like figured out and, you know, life is a bit more chill, hopefully. Yeah.
So would you like to share a little bit more about what make you interested in youth work? Because you're not just doing it as an intern, you also involved quite heavily in the council environment.
Yeah, so I think I kind of got into the youth aspect during high school. I was part of 2 youth councils and I was part of the pastoral committee at school. So I'm a big people person, I would say. Like, people fills my cup. And so that's why now at uni, I still continue to do what I love. And I think one thing I love the most about working with young people is that they have the coolest ideas. Like, they want to be involved and they want to really share their voices and things. But it's hard because, you know, your age is obviously something that people can be like, oh, you're quite young. You don't have that much wisdom. You don't have that much knowledge. So people can shut you down from time to time. And I think, you know, educating young people around voting, around civics is so important because they are the people who shape where, I guess, Aotearoa goes in the next few years. And their votes really do matter. So, and I think making sure that young people are heard, because one of the biggest things, when I was doing like a health and PE report last year, one of the main things that they talked about was like mental health and isolation. So I think for me as well, working in the youth space is to bring people together to make sure that everyone is like, they feel like they're included, not just like physically being there, but also like mentally being able to share your voice. And I think being included also means that they feel safe to share their voices. And yes, that's really what brings me to work with young people. And as a young person myself, I feel like I can I'll try to understand everyone. I know it's impossible to empathize with every single person because everyone comes from a different experience, but I'll try my best to hopefully understand where people are coming from, to see where we can do together as well.
Was there any reason, or is truly just by chance then you get involved into the school council?
I don't remember that much. Because I was at I don't know if you know, but Kingsway School. It was in Oriwa. So I was there from year 7 to year 11. And my change to Rangitoto was purely because I wanted to take the international baccalaureate course, which is not offered in my old school. So it was like a really rushed move because I moved in halfway of year 11. So coming into Rangi, I was like overwhelmed by how much is going on at Rangitoto College as well, because, you know, it's such a big school. There's so many opportunities. And I'm a very social person. So when I first came, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I can do. So I like signed up to a lot of different things. And I think when I moved into year 12 and academics got busy and everything, I kind of like gravitated towards working with young people and working with youth. I mean, there's obviously so many different things at Rangi, like environment, there's things around like mental health and all of that. But I think for me, it was definitely that group of like working with young people, youth councils, and not necessarily politics, but just around civics aspect of things. So, and I feel like once I gravitated toward those in year 13, life got a bit more busier. So I kind of selected the few that I was really passionate about. And yeah, and that's how I kind of like stuck to the youth side of things.
Can you share with me a little bit more? Because this is something that I'm particularly interested as well. As a middle-aged man, 53, I genuinely felt bad for your generation because you have lots more issues to deal with what we have not done. Climate is one of the biggest challenges, of course. But I want you to have this opportunity to share what are the issues that you have commonly hear from young people that they would like to see the change and want to make a difference.
I think one thing just globally is like environment and climate. I think that's something that, you know, it's integrated into what we're learning, which I really do appreciate. And we learn about the Sustainable Development Goals and by the United Nations and all of that. And I think environment is something that like impacts everyone. Most youth, while they might not be necessarily involved with things that make an impact, they are aware of the climate change issues and all of that. I think on a more New Zealand, like a locally based thing, I definitely do think, especially after lockdown and after social media and all of that, isolation is a big issue. It's something that, you know, you don't really see much because if someone's isolated, you obviously won't see them as often as if they weren't. So I think that's one of the things more on the mental health aspect. And moving on, I guess mental health is a significant issue as well. I feel like I can't say much towards it because I feel like growing up, I've had quite a good support network around me. So I've had like a good, not really a good childhood, but also I was just like, I think people around me were really supportive. So I didn't really necessarily experience a lot of mental health issues during high school, anything like that. But I do have friends who, you know, dropped out of school to stay at home to go through things. And I feel like mental health is definitely just the awareness around it. We do talk, there's mental health awareness week and things like that. But I feel like no one realizes the impact is because mental health not only affect the person itself, but affects their families, their friends, and even like the schools, the teachers who know them. And I think that is a big issue for youth. Technology wise, I'm not super good at technology, so I won't say too much around that. And yeah, I think from my perspective, looking at youth in this age, I think these are the issues that are quite prominent.
I like what you say though, Rachel, because you're not saying because of the adversity you experience from the childhood, so you're coming from the lived experience space. However, you are saying you have witnessed things happen around your friends because you are such a people person that you enjoy that kind of social network and all that. You have seen things that happen to them because of mental health and then it deteriorated and hence a family and themselves suffer from it. And you really want to see and make positive changes and also helping them to have a voice to let society and also adults especially not to forget about them just because we see you young and then it's like, oh, what's your problems?
Yeah.
But you are saying it's not. It's a lot more than that.
I feel like, yeah, like all of the issues, there's no like single cause to an issue. It's quite like multiple aspects that leads to the issue. And I think like being like an immigrant as well, I feel like there's also that culture aspect towards it because I feel like now there's more awareness around mental health in China, but definitely with my parents' generation, there weren't a lot. So it is hard to really just like acknowledge and understand what people are going through, especially in the topic of mental health, and what are like some ways that you could truly help them. Because, like if you break a leg, you could get a cast and it heals, but mental health, you can't just be like, hey, get better. Like it's not that simple, I would say. Yeah.
I'm curious. You're talking about things that you have advocating for and things that you're passionate about. And would you like to share a little bit more about your childhood? Because I felt like you have such a different story as a migrant. And would you like to share a little bit more about that?
So I was born in Beijing and I was pretty much raised in Beijing. In my childhood, I feel like, honestly, I don't think I remember too much from my life in Beijing. I just remember I did a lot of piano when I was young. I don't do piano lessons anymore, but I still love playing the piano in my spare time. And then I did kindergarten in China, and then China's a bit different because you go to primary school when you're 7. So I kind of just went there for like half a year and I left. So my Chinese is ish. I can speak, I can read. My writing is not the best, and I'm planning to improve on that over the semester and next year. Hopefully I could get better. My childhood in China, I think I was quite privileged because my parents spent quite a lot of time with me when I was younger. Because I guess in Asian cultures, it is quite common to be looked after by your grandparents. But for me, my parents really had the time to take me on vacation. I remember visiting Thailand when I was little, and also we went to Singapore as well when I was little. So I think I was exposed to the world quite early on in my life. After that, we moved to Vanuatu, which I talked about. I went to a French primary school. It was quite fun. I get to see the natural aspect of the world because I guess growing up in Beijing, it was quite like industrialized. We lived in like this apartment, and, the idea of air pollution was just so common because you hear about it quite a lot. And I think going to Vanuatu, everything was just so like peaceful. It was quiet. Like the houses over there, some of them are literally like a little very natural aspect of life. And I remember we had like a banana tree in our garden, so I'll just like pick bananas off when it's ripe. So it was a good time. And then so when I was 9, we came to New Zealand. I did my last 2 years of primary school here, and then I did the rest of my secondary school in New Zealand as well. I stayed on the shore the whole time, and I think I didn't really get involved much when I was like in middle school or primary school. I can't say I focused on academics because I just remember it was lockdown and I played a lot of games with my friends online. And I think it was definitely after going to Rangi where I became a lot more involved with the community and I guess youth in general. I think my childhood, I would say it was definitely a really, I won't say it's the perfect experience of a childhood, but I would say it shaped me into who I am because I moved a lot, and I think that really pushed me to make friends, to talk to people because, like, for example, moving from Vanuatu to New Zealand, I didn't expect that we would move from Vanuatu to New Zealand. It was kind of like a decision that my parents made last minute. So, it was like saying goodbye to all my friends that I kind of just made like a year ago and leaving again. Same thing happened when I moved from Kingsway to Rangitoto. I was there. I left like midway of the year. So it was like kind of like, hey guys, I'm leaving next term. So you kind of just have to remake friends again. And so I think it really did shape me into someone who was able to talk to anyone, to just say hi, to not be too afraid of, having a conversation with people. And I think that helped me a lot, especially working with people, with youth in this like civic and youth engagement area, which is quite cool. And I really appreciate that.
Can we share a little bit about your parents?
I think, how do I say, have that like Asian parents aspect in them, but they try not to force it onto me, which is quite appreciated. I think growing up, my parents have never been super like, you must do something, you must be someone sort of idea. Like, obviously, I had that typical like Chinese parent who give you homework during the holidays experience, which is all good. My math did improve, so it's fine. But they were never like, you must, do this for university or study well. I think growing up, I can't say I'm like the most academic person, but I've always been like what I tell my parents, I'm in that top group, but I can never be the top person, so sort of idea. And they're okay with it. They're like, oh, as long as you're like happy with your life, doing what you like, it's all good. I think especially after coming to New Zealand, they were very busy. My mom was studying her master's and my dad was working. So I think maybe primary or early middle school, I was quite independent. I bussed to school every day in like year 4. And then I continued to bus all the way until I can drive in year 13. And I remember like packing my own lunches and stuff because my mom would be like studying and my dad would go to work early. I think, yeah, there's good and bad to it. Like my parents, when I was young, they spent a lot of time with me. And once we came to New Zealand and I was a bit older as well, they gave me that independence to let me do what I want. And I think not putting a lot of pressure is definitely something I really appreciate because I try my best in things, but I can't say I will succeed in everything. So it's good that, you know, they celebrate all the little wins in life. Yeah, I think that really shaped me into someone who just like give things a go instead of worrying too much about the outcome. And I mean, I did struggle with this back in like year 12, year 13, because everyone around me was super amazing because I did the international baccalaureate. So everyone is amazing, accomplished person you will meet. I had time where I really need to focus on the outcome of things, but I feel like it's more important just to experience everything because I think every step that you take, you will learn something from it. Sometimes you feel like it's wasted, but I don't think that's true. Like, even though you might not like gain things academically or gain things financially, you'll learn some experience that you won't forget. And I think, you know, speaking on behalf of my parents, going to Vanuatu was probably a detour for them in life because especially coming from Beijing, no one really knew where Vanuatu was or what that, like where on earth that is. So moving to Vanuatu, I'm pretty sure they faced a lot of like, not confusion, but just people not knowing what they're doing with their life. So I think it's a good role model for me to just show that life is not a straight path. You can kind of just, you will learn a lot of different things on the side. And now looking back, they were saying how it was really good that we went to Vanuatu because honestly, I'll just share this as a small story, but I learned French in Vanuatu. And in year 7, my mom found me a French tutor because she was like, oh, you should continue with your French. I continued, so I did French with this tutor. And she was literally the person that pushed me to go to Rangitoto College because my parents tried it. They were like, oh, you should go to Rangitoto. And I was like, I don't want to stress out that much. It's too academic. And then my French tutor was like, hey, you do pretty well academically. You should try for Rangitoto. So she kind of like pushed me to go to Rangitoto. And I'm so thankful that she did. And I going to Rangitoto, like, I think it really gave me the opportunity to do better with everything. So yeah, like if I never went to Vanuatu, never studied French, I might have just stayed in Kingsway until year 13, and like my life would be quite different, I would say. So I think you learn a little bit. You learn a little bit of everything throughout the journey.
Can I ask you? So do you speak French then?
Yes, I speak. How would I say? Yeah, like I can't say I'm professional, but like I would be able to survive in France for like a bit.
Still saying your parents still have certain aspect of being an Asian parents, which is they're trying to give you the best opportunities to thrive, and including wanting you to go to Rangitoto. But once you're there, they are not pushing you. They're just allowing you to enjoy your experience and leave it to your own devices so that you grow from that, which is not easy for many Asian parents because they, you know, sometimes want to insert certain type of control. But you are saying your parents literally just say, yeah, she's in the best environment now. We're just going to leave it to her and how she wants to manage that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think like as a Christian, for me, like faith did an important part. I think like personally, just for me having faith and for them having faith as well, it really helped a lot because my mom is always like, oh, like God has a plan. You should just follow that. And you like, no matter how well you plan your life, it's not going to be as good as God's plan, you know, like that's for us. That's how we like think about it. So I think, so it's quite nice to have the faith aspect as well throughout high school. And definitely, I think it's helped me a lot as well. I think that's why like I've always been quite like optimistic with everything because I'm like, you know what, God has a plan. I'm going to do my best and the rest is in his hands. And if he wants me to get it, then yay, thank you. But if not, then I'm sure there's other pathways in life that I could go into. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Sometimes you can only do your best, even though we have our personal desire, but if the God think there's a better pathway for you, it's not going to happen. There's nothing else you can do. You can only try your best, done your best. And then it's like, well, it's up to the guys who decide what to do. Yeah. Yeah,
100%. So I think having a faith in our family did really help with the, I guess, parent and kid dynamic, like between me and my parents, you know, just like when we do get into arguments around what I should study, because I'm a very indecisive person. But I think at the end of the day, we'll give it to God because both like my parents and myself, we don't know what's best for the future. Like you don't really have that control because, you know, we're so small, let's be honest. So, so I think it really did help us a lot. Like me going through high school and now uni, and like communicating with my parents as well, because it allowed me to just like share everything with them, because they weren't
Wow.
judged. They just listen, and they just they try to give me ideas, which completely understand because, parents, but it's
Yes.
nice to be able to just share everything. And they hear me complain about school all the time as well. And, when I graduated, my parents are like, oh my gosh, so thankful, because now you can't complain about school anymore. Now I'm at uni and I still complain to them about school. So they still listen.
Tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your parents, because it sounds like you guys have a very good relationship.
I kind of share everything, because I think being an only child, you have your parents and your friends, right? But with friends aspect, I don't it's not like a sibling where you like see them 24/7. Like friends, we share stuff, but like a lot of my friends moved away, and I feel like with my parents, they're quite we always have dinner together. So I think that's something that's very big in my family. And during dinner, I would sometimes share about my stress at school, and especially a math class, because I struggled a bit in year 12 math, and it was not a really fun experience. Yeah, so I think my parents and I, because we're the only people here, like all of our families are still in China, so it's like brought us quite close. And growing up, I've always been quite a communicative person. I would communicate problems to you. Now I still like talk to them about things, and obviously we do get into arguments from time to time, but overall, it's pretty chill. And I just I still complain. They just listen. They get annoyed sometimes. They're like, oh my gosh, you should stop complaining about uni. Because they're like, if you really hate it, then you should quit. But then I don't quit, and I just continue to complain about it while I do it. So yeah, it's a good relationship that we have.
They even let you have the options to say, no, if you don't enjoy uni, just stop.
My parents are like, literally, they're like, if you don't, like when I was in IB, like in the first term, I was quite stressed because I was quite behind, I would say. And I remember my dad was like, you could just do NCA instead. Like, why are you stressing? And I feel like, I don't know, I was very determined to do it. So I was like, no, I got to go through it. So they had 2 more years of complaints from me, but they were happy that I graduated. So they're not very pressuring. Like, obviously, I think they have their mindset on what they want me to do, but they're not very you must do what we say. Like, they'll give me a suggestion, be like, hey, how about this? But they're not super you must listen to me sort of idea. So yeah.
I want to point out, I'm not saying all Asian parents are like that, but to have Asian parents and actually say that's truly that hard, you don't have to do it. It's not very
100%.
often.
Yeah, I think
honestly.
they always joke about coming to New Zealand and how New Zealand is such a chill country compared to China, and they're saying how we came here for you to not stress out too much. Yeah, it's definitely they went through all of the Gaokao and everything in China, so I'm sure they understand how stressful it was to have all the pressure from your parents, from people around you and everything. I'm really lucky to have really chill parents, I would say, because I was kind of raised in China, and obviously they've been raised in China, so it is hard, I think, for them not push all of the cultural stuff onto me as well. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So what I really want to focus on now is about the youth issues that we touch on, what you have seen, what you have witnessed, some of the things that you heard.
I think I'll touch on the ones that I work around with, and also I know a bit better because I feel like it's not qualified enough to give advice on things I don't really do much around. But I think for me, it's definitely just talking about, I guess, my role as a youth intern and in Auckland Council. It's around youth engagement and empowerment, I would probably say. That's something that we target a lot, because last weekend I was at this youth civic retreat, and we're talking about how only 29% of people in general in Auckland voted for the council local board election, which is so little. 29% out of the whole population is tiny. And when we were talking about how much youth there are in Auckland, it's about a third of Auckland's population is people from 0 to 24 or 25. You can see that youth is a growing population, and it's quite important that, we have a focus on them. For me, I think one of the issues is definitely the gap between opportunity and people who seek them. I was someone who naturally researched about opportunities and things that I can do, but I know a lot of people, you do really have to present it to them for them to be interested. You can't wait for them to knock on the door, but you have to knock on the door yourself and to present that opportunity to them. So I personally, deep down my heart, I think everyone wants to get involved, because it's so fun to just meet new people, to hear about what others are doing as well. So bridging that gap between opportunity and young people, for example, I know social media is one of the main outlets that everyone kind of uses to market different events and everything. But there is also a lot of other layers of things that we do have to consider, like trust, or are they interested in this event? With that said, like finding a way to have a group of audience who is keen to join, but also being able to share this opportunity with other people and make it seen by other people as well. So I think that's one of the cool things to, I guess, increase youth engagement, but also, I guess, touching on the isolation aspect as well. Because, for example, with Unite last year, which is the Devonport Tekapuna Youth Council, we did this event where we did sip and paint. So we had like cute juices, and then we did like art canvases, and people were able to draw while they like drink on juice and like talk to people around them. And we mixed up the names, so people had to sit next to someone they might not know. And it was quite cool because it allowed youth to come into a place where it's not a competition, because you meet people during your netball competitions or your math Olympiad competitions or things like that, but it was just like a place where people across the shore can come together and just have a discussion. And so I think that's one of the things I always talk about, is that gap between opportunities. And the second thing, I guess relating on to what I do with Auckland Council, is the idea of relevance to youth. We always talk about, we want to get more youth voters, or we want to get more youth opinions on what we should do and things like that. But have you read like the local board plans in general? There are like 30 pages or 50 pages, and the wording is just, I wouldn't say it's complicated, but I mean, youth is from
you.
like, yeah, you know what I mean?
They are totally crap. They're just someone
really
who
long.
think their English is so good. They just forget about who the audience supposed to be.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, you're too polite. Let me say it's totally crap. They need to do better to understand.
I understand. And also I think it's the idea that, if maybe like 18 years old, it's fine for them to read, but you have audiences from like 12 to 24, because that's where rangatahi captures. So I think having these being more accessible. I know there's like easy reads and stuff, but I'm going to be honest, like a 12 years old, they're not going to search it up, easy read about local plan, and I'd like do a whole survey on it as well. I don't really have a solution to this, but I feel like a way to make it more engaging, make it more fun. It is hard, especially, I feel like especially with local board in like local board ward and Auckland Council in general, because a lot of people don't really know what your local board is doing, even though you're using their work every single day, for example, like parks, the library, and all of that. It is your local boards, what they work on, but people don't know about it. And I think that's like the low turnout rate in general, I feel like, but especially with youth as well. Like, making things more engaging, but also I think educating them, having something we talked about at the retreat was about civic education, and, and potentially like integrating things about the government, the vote, the local boards, and how New Zealand's governance work and stuff into just your education in general, because it could be really helpful. Because as like a individual in a society, it is not I wouldn't say it's your obligation to vote, but it is your right to vote. So that's, I guess, one of the other things that I would love to work on, but I feel like it is hard to find a point to, I guess that's why like with Base Youth Council as well, we try to talk about, local board plans and making things easier for people to vote. It was Auckland Council consultation that we did at Summer Spectacular, where we had lollies and we like simplified what each kind of points were about, and then had little kids come to like see what they are and like use a lolly to vote. Like, I guess things like that makes a big difference. It gives people an idea of what voting is, and to realize that it's also not super scary, because I guess when you turn 18, everything kind of just gets dumped onto you. Like, I'm 18 at the moment, and I feel like there's just so much to think about. When you start a job, you have to pay tax, but there's also like when you have a student loan, there's a different tax bracket, and you get thrown into voting. And like this year, the voting is slightly different because you have to register to vote. You can't just show up on the booth to vote. You have to go through the online application to register to vote. And like, I think preparing youth at like a younger age to start thinking about all of these issues, and not just voting and not just government, but in general, like life and like things like financial, financial education and things like that as well. That would definitely support more people and help to empower more youth as they go into the stage of working or going to university. And for me, I'm in uni, so I don't have to worry too much about work and stuff like that. But I know a lot of people who's doing apprenticeship or who's doing part-time or full-time work after uni, the support around how to find a job, how to write your CV, how to just go to interview and how to actually answer interview questions would be so beneficial for youth. And it's like a relevant issue that we should work on.
I like what you say because you're saying that the society assumes that just because someone been through education system, then now they suddenly go to this bigger world, they know what to do. You say there is a big gap, like because what you study in a school is not necessarily the same when you walk into the biggest world. And there is no such a thing as inclusivity to make sure that young people are being engaged and they understand their rights. You're not challenging about the system. You're challenging about, as a society as a whole, how do we truly engage with young people to let them know about their rights so that they can exercise their rights in the most effective way that will influence their life, because they don't even have an opportunity to have say. Yet all these decisions has been made by adults for them.
No, I agree. I think, 100%. I think it comes to that gap. It's like, you see all of these places, they like give your opinion. But firstly, like the first barrier is like youth maybe not be able to find these things online, or maybe it doesn't come across their social media at all. And the second thing is that like when they see it, they might not have the time or the energy to read through it or to answer all these questions. So I think kind of not getting rid of these barriers, but try to minimize these barriers would be really awesome. I think as an immigrant, I know my Chinese is not the best, but I think something I would love to work on more is definitely like immigrant youth. One of the things that you talked about on that day was about the 1.5 generation sort of idea. And I completely agree. Like it's a weird generation to be in. And I feel like I might have missed it by a little bit. I'm not too sure because I feel like I did grow up in China a little bit, but I think it's that weird idea that your parents are very like Chinese or like Asian-based cultures and you're kind of growing up in a Western society. And a lot of the ideologies, like 100%, I'm not going to lie. Like, for example, my parents are quite lenient around like what I do, but I know Asian parents are quite strict about what you should do. And I think Western parents are usually quite, you should do what you like. You shouldn't just listen to us and what you do as well. So that's why I'm kind of improving my Chinese. So hopefully I can support the ethnic community as well. That's a big passion of mine, to work with ethnic youth, because it's so cool to see a lot of ethnic youth being involved. There's ethnic people panel in the Auckland Council panels as well. But it will be cool to have more young people to be involved and to hear their voice, because especially with these 1.5 generation immigrants, they have so much to say. I feel like they have like a very different perspective from the first generation as well as the second generation. And it'll be cool to share their voices too.
Yeah. And to be like, you truly opened my eyes, like even though I've heard about many issues that has been mentioned by young people, but how you describe it really just make me realize how much we're not creating a society where that inclusivity is truly seen by young people. And thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome. Yeah. So what would you say for any organizations being better engaged and empower young people in general?
I think it's hard to answer that question because I feel like every organization has what they do, and like some organization definitely, if you're working with older people or senior citizens, it's hard to be like, hey, how do you engage with young people? A general rule I would say is probably if you're keen for a young voice, like definitely reach out to schools or like youth organizations to, I feel like coming as a youth intern is super cool, or just like a youth representative in the organization. I feel like looking into a more like economic way, I would say it's a good opportunity for young people to gain experience. And also it's a good opportunity for the organization to gain youth perspective. I think internships are super cool. I know this is a very practical thing that people can do, and I'm not saying you should do this. It's just in my opinion. I think there's so many young people doing social work or things like that. Having internships with young people, I think brings a really cool view into the organization and, how they could be more youth focused. One of the other things I would say is that I feel like just trying to understand young people a bit more with organizations, especially I feel like there's a lot of organizations who's doing a lot of work with young people already. There is a lot of organizations who wants to help young people, who wants to support them, to empower them. And I would just say like, bridge the gap. I would say like if organizations wants a young member or wants to hear about youth perspective, I think they should have the reciprocal relationship where they provide some value to the young person, or the young person also provides their like lived experiences and their perspectives into the organization.
It's beautiful what you say, even just like creating that space, isn't it, for young people to have a voice and not creating something but using the existing platform, whatever that they have, and just consciously thinking about how do we allow young people to have a voice on this table, but it's also genuine and also empowering, but instead of just tokenism as well. And because you were talking about the ethnic space as well early on. So what have you seen as well in that ethnic space? Do you think there's enough leaderships in the ethnic space for young Asians to be part of it?
I think the ethnic space, from my perspective, and also like living on the shore, I just want to like make sure my geographical location is relevant, because this is not on this side, but I went to like the retreat I was talking about. It was called We Are over the weekend. And a lot of the people from south of Auckland and east west as well. And it was actually quite different. Like community is such a big thing around the south, but I feel like in the north, a lot of the time, you know, people do, a lot of the time it's more like a value that you're providing to the community and things like that. So I think geographical location does have impact on how people do things in our organization do things as well. With that said, I think there's so many different organizations that are doing things in the ethnic community and doing a lot of good things as well. But I feel like it would be cool to have like an ecosystem where they all have connections to each other. Because I feel like a lot of people are doing like individual things, but once if it's possible to connect everyone, I think it will be like a greater impact. That's just where I'm coming from. And I think there's a lot more youth representation, especially young ethnic representation in the civics area, which I think is super cool. Like in the Upper Harbour local board, there's 2 young Asian women as their local board members. And I think that's super cool as well. And I think there's definitely like more potential for more ethnic people to take leadership roles, whether in ethnic, just in ethnic related organizations, or more broader into local boards and even like council wise as well. But yeah, I think having like an ecosystem would be such a cool thing to do. And I think that comes with a lot of other organizations as well. Like there's so many youth councils like that, but it would be cool to connect them and to have potentially like a summit or something each year for everyone to come together to share what they've learned, to share what went wrong, what went right, and to just grow together and to, I guess, have that cohesiveness to everything that you do. Because, you know, I think when everyone comes together and when everyone shares what they learned, everyone can grow together. That's how I think about it. So no matter what age you are, you know, you can always do something, which is, I guess that's the cool thing about life.
You mentioned something which you're not the first person who say that. I also hear another young people who say the same thing. Rangi Total College have created a lot more opportunity for young people to participate because there's a lot going on in that space, but not all school have. So how would you encourage young people if they have a passion? Where and how can they start?
Because you spend so much time at school, it is where most of your information and where most of what you see comes from. But with that said, I think especially if you're like at a school that's a bit limiting, internet is a great thing, you know, internet, social media. You can see like all the organizations, they post things on social media, they post things online. And it's quite cool if you have like an area that you're very interested in, you can always search it up and search up the organizations and what they do as well. And I feel like one of the coolest thing is if you're young and you're passionate, you could always flick a message or email, or when, you know, a youth council is recruiting, you could apply for it. And I would say like it is still harder to find opportunities if you are in a more limited like environment. But like if you really want to do something, you would always be able to find that thing with that aspect or that focus that you want to focus on, sort of idea.
So who has the biggest influence in your life? Like because you mentioned about teacher, so I just wonder, there must be someone has made a big impact on you.
I think everyone has their own impact in my life. I would say it that way. I think, you know, my French tutor, honestly, she's like my Chinese mom in a way. Like she's amazing. I love her to bits. But my parents are like quite chill. But she's the kind of person who pushes you, but she knows kind of where your limit is. But she thinks if you're not reaching your potential, she will like push you. So I think it's super incredible to have someone like that in your life. And with me as well, like at school, I think a lot of my teachers are just so incredible. To have so much passion to teach people, to teach kids. I remember one of my teachers, like on the last day, I was giving him a gift to say thank you. And he was like, oh, like whatever you do in life, do something good or do something that has like a good social impact. And I was like, that's so inspiring, you know, like to hear that from your teachers, to see that they're at this job because they love working with people. They love like inspiring people.
I just want to say this has been an amazing conversation and I'm learning so much from you. The final questions I have is if you can go back to the age that you've chosen of your younger self, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think don't regret. Advice I'll give to myself. I think for myself, I've always been like, I overthink too much. It's good and it's bad because like I overthink, but then I make rational decisions, which is good. But also I think when you overthink, kind of like you're afraid to do things. Like when you overthink, you think about the opportunity cost, you think about the consequences. In general, we often tend to catastrophize things rather than thinking of the good outcome. And I think it's rational, you know, like you can't go into something blindly. But once you make a decision, don't regret it. That's something I always like try to tell myself. I forgot the author of this book, but it's called Letters to a Young Poet, I think. And one of the quote is to live the questions. And I love that quote so much because, you know, in life, you got to really live it. You can't just be like, I kind of want to do this, I want to do that, but not really doing anything about it. I think, yeah, like don't regret on things. Like you'll make mistakes, you learn from them. I guess it's hard to fully understand the bigger picture sometimes. For me, I think like if I tell my younger self is, if you made a decision, just be happy with it. Like it might be a wrong decision, might be a right decision. If it's wrong, you know, you might stop halfway, you might do something else. But at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. And you'll learn from it either way. Like you might learn some painful lessons. You might learn some good things. And yeah, it'll be okay. I think that's how I would put it.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to say thanks again. And I really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity. All the best as well.
Thank you, Rachel.